Mrs. Stoffel.
Hi.
So glad you can make it today. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Ms. Granado?
I'm doing well, thank you. I have you here today because I would like to go over Isaac's nationwide test of achievement. And the nationwide test of achievement that we took back in March here, which you can see right here from the date. This achievement test is just a test that we take once a year to gauge how students are doing throughout the curriculum and the teaching strategies. It's not used for failing or anything like that. It's just used to help to see what he's learning from each grade level.
Okay, sounds good.
This also helps me to see how Isaac is doing as well, and what he still needs help with. So, like I said before, remember this test was taken back in March. So there are some things that may or may not have been taught yet, and so we'll take that in consideration when looking at the scores later on. I also have here a bell curve which correlates along with the nationwide test of achievement, and I'll come back to this as well. But I just wanted you to kind of get a glimpse of it so that you can see that as we're going through the nationwide test of achievement here. So if you notice first, there's some sections here. This first section is just going to give you the demographic information where you have my name, you have the school's name, the district, the student's name, the grade level, the test date, student ID. And the student ID is just information there for you where you can take his ID as well in the school website, and you can look up information for his grades and stuff like that. And even the nationwide test of achievement, the scores are on there as well.
Really?
So you can go on the parent portal to use his ID for that.
Okay.
Also, he has Form B for this test.
All right. What is Form B?
I'm so glad you asked that. So Form B is just a section of the test that has the same questions as Form A, but they kind of move the questions around a little bit to prevent cheating.
Okay. Understandable.
Let's see. So it's just laid out differently. And you can stop me at any time if you have any questions or anything like that. If you notice, the NTA has two types of scoring. This first section is called the norm, and the second section is called criterion. So for the norm is just showing how your child did in comparison to a norm group. The norm group is just a set of students who was selected throughout the nation to take this test ahead of time, so before the test was released. And so all of the students are based on that norm group.
Okay.
Within the norm group, you have the subjects, and then you also have like the areas underneath some of those subjects. So for instance, you have reading, you have under that you have vocabulary, word analysis, reading comprehension. Then you have your total mathematics, which has all of these areas as well. And you have your language, your listening, your spelling, science and social studies underneath that. You have basic battery and complete battery. Do you have any questions so far?
Yes. What is basic battery and complete battery? I don't remember those being taught when I was in school.
Okay, so those are really good questions. Basic battery is just showing how your child is doing on certain subjects, and complete battery is how your child is doing overall on everything that was tested.
Oh.
So we're going to look at some of the subjects here, and if you'll notice next to these in the columns here, we have number of items, raw scores, national percentiles, stay 9 scaled score, and percentile bands. So let's see. So when you're looking at reading, for instance, and you see a number of items is 108, number of items is how many items were tested on the test. So his raw score would be how many he got correct out of that 108 here. And then when you look at national percentiles for total reading, he's at 53. So if we look at the bell curve over here and we look under national percentiles, which is right in here, and you can see that it's in the range between 1 and 99. And this area here that I highlighted ahead of time for you is just to tell you where the norm group had scored. So this is the range in which they scored. So anywhere in here is good.
Okay.
So right now, if you can see 53, he's about right here. So he's a little bit above the average in the middle here. So he's doing really well there. Let's see. So we're going to look back at the scores here, and we're going to skip to the percentile bands for just a minute. Just because the percentile bands go with the national percentiles. Now, national percentiles, I forgot to mention, are not percentages. So I just want to make sure that I said that. So for percentile bands, if you look over here, it kind of states the same information that is right here, but it's showing it over here, so it's a faster read. So if you'll look here, here's that middle mark, which is going to be right here, that 50. And so you can see he's a little bit above, he's at 53. And then you have this dot with this bar through it. And basically what this means is it's giving the standard error of measurement. And the standard error of measurement for this test is plus or minus 3. And so I'm confident that if Isaac was to take this test again, he would score within that range. So that range would be between the 50th and the 56th percentile for this. Do you have any questions so far?
Does Isaac have any areas that he needs to work on that are below the average, like lower than the average score?
Well, let's look at the bell curve. If you notice this highlighted area, most of the students scored within this area, so he's still within that range. So he's still doing really well. There might be areas that he could work on, but he's still doing really well for right now.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to the stanines. So we have stanines here, and if we look back at the bell curve, stanines are going to be right down here, and you have 1 through 9 here, and they're broken off into sections. So 1, 2, and 3 is in the lower stanines, 4, 5, and 6 is in the middle stanines, and 7, 8, and 9 is in the higher stanines, or the upper stanines. So that's how you're going to read those. So when we look at reading, for example, his stanine is 5. So we'll look down here, and you'll see 5 right here. So he's right in that middle mark. And if, for another example, we'll look at language. Language right here, he's at the 7. So if you look right here, here's the 7. So he's in that upper stanine.
Okay. I have a question. Why is that when he's in the upper bit, he's in the middle of the, like the peak goes right through it?
Okay, so for language, if you look over here, he scored a raw score of 41. So we'll look over here for language, 41. So 41 should be, oh no, I'm sorry, the percentile scores. So we'll look at 81 up here. So if you look at his percentile score, it's 81, and if you scroll straight down, he's right in that mark where he's in the 7, but he's still in that norm range. But because 7, 8, and 9 are considered upper stanine, he'll still be considered the upper stanine in this area.
Okay.
Okay, so now we'll look at the scaled score. So we have the scaled score here, and the scaled score just takes that raw score and it's plugged into a formula where it comes out on a scale for the nationwide test of achievement down here at the bell curve. So you'll look over here and you have the scaled scores right here, which is from 200 to 800. And with 500 being the average right in here. So for example, we'll look at his reading scaled score where he scored 508. So we'll look right in here. So here's reading, and we come right over here to the scaled score at 508. And when we look for it over here on the bell curve, he's about right in here. So he's just above average for reading there. Do you have any questions?
What are his highest and lowest scaled scores?
Okay, so his highest and lowest scaled score, his lowest is going to be in math, which is a 475 in his problem solving. So if you look at the bell curve over here, 475 is going to be somewhere within this range. So he's still doing pretty good. So it's still probably an area to look at, but he's still within that range.
Okay.
And then his highest score would be 595, which is going to be science. And if you look over here, he's almost to that 600 mark. So he's doing really well in science. Let's see. So now what I want to do is I want to focus now on the criterion-based information. And the criterion referenced information is just breaking down this information into a little bit more detail. So with this is showing what skills Isaac has mastered in certain objectives and the standards. And looking here, you have again RS, which is raw score. You have NP, which is your number possible, which is kind of like your number of items stated up here. And then you have low, medium, and high. Low, medium, and high was determined by a formula from content experts, and so that was factored way before the test even was administered. So this is going to tell us if he's in that low range, the medium range, or that high range. So when we look at his raw score for vocabulary, it's going to be 26. So he got 26 answers correct out of the 36 numbers possible. So there's 36 questions here. And he scored in that medium range. Let's see. Okay, so like I said before, this is just kind of stating like from that formula and everything on where he's low, medium, or high. So do you have any questions with any of the other subjects here?
Yes, I have a question. What is structural analysis?
Okay, so structural analysis is the ability to gain information about meaning, punctuation, part of speech. So of like the new words from prefixes, roots, and suffixes. For example, prefix disc, it means not or opposite of. So if you have disagree, it's the opposite of the word agree.
Oh, okay. I knew what that was. I just couldn't quite formulate it. Thank you.
Is there any other questions that you have?
No, not that I think so.
Okay, well, if you remember or you think of anything that you would like to ask, just stop me. I also wanted to go over some of Isaac's strengths here. So looking at his high scores here at this first one, which is structural analysis, you can see he got 10 out of 10, and he scored high here. So here, this is where he is reading words that end with the endings like ing, ed, that sort of thing. He did very well with that. So looking at his schoolwork, we can see that he doesn't have any problems using those endings. Notice another high area. Another high area for him was language. And in language, you have all of these subsections or sub-areas here within there. And he did really well on all of those. You can see in his journal here that I have for him, you can see that all the detail that he's using in his writing. He's writing very clearly in order for me to be able to read it. You can also see that he's using correct capitalization at the beginning of his sentences, that he's using punctuation, He's also using capital letters with the proper nouns, names of people and places and things. He's also even starting to use commas in a series.
Okay.
So he's doing really well with that. So he's really doing really well. Do you write a lot with him at home?
Yes, I do a lot. In fact, it's one of the things that we like to do together.
Oh wow, that's awesome. It's really good that you do that together because it's really showing in his work here. So for sentence usage, which is right down here, the usage in language. He is also saying like I, instead of saying I has, he says I have. And so he's doing really well with that. Do you correct him when he's speaking at home?
Yes, I do, but I don't have to do it very often.
Okay, well that's showing up in his writing as well. So his general structure is good when he is writing in complete sentences and not just like parts of the sentence. So he's doing really well putting, complete thoughts into complete sentence structure.
Mm-hmm.
Another high level, if you look over here, is going to be his life science. His life science here. You can see that the raw score is 7, and the number possible is also 7. So, so here, he got all of these correct, and we can look over here. If you look over here, I have in here that we did a project on, he did a research project on African elephants. And I could see that he was really excited here. He was really passionate about these animals and wanting to conserve their habitats and the species as a whole. Like, he was really into this research project. Has he ever talked about it at home?
Yes, Isaac has talked about liking science, and that he does really well in the subject, but he hasn't really said anything else in detail about it.
Okay. Well, he did really love this research project that we did. So, so I just wanted to let you know that was one of his really good interests, and you can definitely see that in his test scores here. Also, I wanted to go over some low areas for him as well. And some of those low areas will be his phonetic analysis over here under the word analysis. And you can see here that let's see. You can see that his raw score here is a 6 and his number possible is 11. So he is considered low in this area. And this is where you're going over the phonetic analysis consonants and are going over the sounds such as the consonant blends and the consonant digraphs. Do you have any questions?
What are consonant blends and consonant digraphs?
Consonant blends are words that have, for example, like BR, BR, ST, st, or WR, like R, and GR, GR. So, consonant digraphs is where you have a diagram or a picture of something that is spelled with a particular blending sound. So, for example, if you have the word sheep and you have the picture sheep, you need to know what blending letters go with that word.
Okay.
So, for example, on that particular paper, it could have like SH or SC, and the child needs to know that SH makes that sh sound.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions about the consonant blends or consonant digraphs?
No, not right now.
Okay, well, I did want to mention some things that I am doing in class and some things that can be done at home to help him. In the class, when he reads, I try not to interrupt his comprehension and just kind of let him finish reading. And then once he's finished reading, we go back to those words that he's having trouble with. And just emphasize on that blended sound there. And this would help him at home when someone at home reads with him, if someone can do that with him. But make sure that he gets to read the entire thing before going over those words, because we still want him to comprehend what he's reading.
Okay.
Some other things as well. Let's see. So, let's see here. Also, I have some things that I can send home as well. So we have some games within the classroom that we play that help with these consonant blends, and so I'll be sending that home with you as well, so you can help him with that at home. And there are some websites as well that will help with this, and I'll write those down for you before you leave. Also down here, I wanted to go over another low area, which is in measurement, where his raw score here is 5, and out of the number possible was 8. So he was considered low here. However, I don't quite agree with the scoring here because there isn't as many questions here. And so even though it may look like he got more than half of them right, it's still an area to work on, but when looking at his work, it shows that he's understanding. It just didn't show up so much on this test, so he might have been tired that day, or something was going on.
Okay.
So because in his work, I can definitely see that that he's understanding. So overall, Isaac is doing really, really well in class, and he did really, really well on this nationwide test of achievement. Do you have any other questions about Isaac's scores?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a copy of this home with you, so you can have a copy of the bell curve and a copy of this achievement with his scores on it. And then I'm also going to give you the website and also the game as well for you to take home today.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you so much for coming in, Mrs. Stoffel. Your son is wonderful, and I love having him in my class.